Okay, so the second poem is called Acquainted with the Night by Robert Frost. And you can see it is a very short poem, one stanza, 14 lines long. But you can also look at if you look at the ends of all the lines, you can see night, light, rain, lane, explain, beat, feet, street. So you can hear there's a rhyme scheme. So you know right off the bat it's one stanza with a rhyme scheme. So it's traditional poetry. And it's a great poem. It's similar to the previous poem, but kind of a different mood. So let's read it. I have been one acquainted with the night. I have walked out in rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the furthest city light. I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet, when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street, but not to call me back or say goodbye. And further still, at an unearthly height, one luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been one acquainted with the night. So similar to the previous poem. Let's talk about when the speaker says, I have been one acquainted with the night. There are some of you who you're night owls, and your best, most creative time is nighttime. But I think Robert Frost in this poem is talking about the night as a time of darkness, like emotional darkness, like working through something. So it's not literally I've been acquainted with the night, like nighttime, midnight, but I've been acquainted with dark times where things were very difficult and I was struggling. Ignore my children. And then he says, I walked out in rain and back in rain. So not literally in rain, but something that felt oppressive or cold or long-lasting. I've outwalked the furthest city light. So where your friend circle was, maybe you walked beyond that, or your family, you walked beyond that. You didn't look to them for help. I've looked down the saddest city lane. Like I've looked at everything and it just looked bleak. It didn't look good. I have passed by the watchman on his beat. So watchman would be like a nighttime police, and this is old fashioned. So a police officer on foot, and that police officer has like a neighborhood they protect. So apparently the speaker walks by the watchman. So somebody who's supposed to protect. The speaker walked by him. So maybe he didn't look for help, just walked by and wasn't noticed. And dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. So when he walked by that person that protects, dropped the eyes, didn't get contact, didn't want to be seen, maybe wanted to be invisible. Because sometimes when things aren't going very well, we don't really know what to do. We don't know how to reach out for help. So we try to not draw any attention because we're not sure how to deal with it. And then he says, I've stood still and stopped the sound of feet. So been like in a city and just didn't move, kind of paralyzed. And then could hear that far away an interrupted cry. But that cry wasn't somebody saying, come back, I want to talk to you, I need you. So it just adds an element of sorrow to it, right? And then further still at an unearthly height, it talks about that luminary clock, so that tower with that clock face, kind of like we have here in Port Angeles. And the clock proclaims the time is neither wrong nor right. So it's not wrong to feel this way. It's not right to feel this way. You don't have to hurry up. You gotta process some stuff and figure out what you're going to do. And the speaker says, I've been one acquainted with the night. And because the speaker says acquainted, you can assume that difficult time has passed and the speaker is in a better spot. So I find this very touching poem. You can go through really difficult times really difficult times that other people might not be able to manage. But if you give yourself the time, you can figure out your way. And when you're ready, you will ask for help, and you will reach out to friends or families or whomever. So let's take a peek at the questions here. I think pretty straightforward. Imagery. Remember, imagery is sight, smell, touch, taste, sound. So that one, I think you can do that. That's line 7 and line 8. I think you can figure out who you saw while you were walking around the city. I talked about that. And I talked about the image of the clock tower. And then lines 1 and 14. So this one you have to look at the questions, go up to the poem. Look at the questions, go up to the poem. 1 and 14. Oh, it has a really lovely sound device. And you should be able to figure that one out. Remember, sound devices are the way poems are written, because poems are meant to be read out loud. So when you listen to it, that sound we're going for. So 1 and 14 share a sound device. Talked about the rhyme scheme. Talked about what kind of poetry it is. And then you're going to evaluate it. Okay. And then we'll see who wins.